Escalating storm in the Labour Party as Julius Abure-led NWC suspends Governor Alex Oti, Senator Ireti Kingibe and Dalitin Wokocha, while Nenadi Usman Caretaker Committee sets up disciplinary committee to investigate Abure for alleged corruption, misappropriation, and anti-party activities. Former President Goodluck Jonathan cautions against the danger of one-party state driven by personal interest, says is detrimental to the nation. Hello and welcome to Politics Today, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. A lot has happened today. I'll just see how much of the highlights I can bring to you. But one of the big things that has happened today is to the effect that the leadership wrangling in the Labour Party seems not to be going away anytime soon. In fact, if there's a word appropriate for it, it's festering. Nigerian term, they will say, do me, I do you in that sense, if you allow me to use those terms. So it's going to be one of the major conversations on the program today. But also, a lot has also been happening in the Senate, one of which is the Senate has passed a resolution adopting a motion to hold a national security summit given the resurgence of the level of insecurity across the country. So the big question people are asking, don't the government and the people know exactly what to do concerning insecurity? Do we need a national security summit again to put together people to have conversation, or is this just a talk shop, or this is going to be a different kind of one? But that's not all that has happened in the Senate. 2 of the 4 major tax reform bills has now been passed by the Senate, signaling some kind of a milestone in the ongoing overhaul of the nation's tax administration framework. Now, the 2 bills, one seeking to actually repeal the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS Act, so we may not be hearing that name anytime from now, and another to establish a Joint Revenue Board Bill 2025, along with the Nigeria Revenue Service Bill 2025, were passed following a clause-by-clause consideration during the Committee of the Whole and the subsequent third reading on the floor of the Senate. Now, the remaining 2 bills, we understand, will be finalized tomorrow, even if it requires extending sitting hours. That's according to the Senate. The Senate President Godswill Akpabio had actually commended the lawmakers, who are his colleagues, expressing optimism that the reform bills will not only enhance governance, but also revolutionize tax collection and distribution across the country. Now, away from what played out on the floor of the upper chamber, the red chambers, let's tell you some of the comments that has been coming in from Statesman, one of which is former President Goodluck Jonathan, saying that any nation that must practice one-party system must actually do so carefully and with a well-planned process and projected outcome. Now, the former president was paying tribute to the late Edwin Clark at a memorial lecture, and Day of Tribute says any attempt to bring about one-party state through political machinations to suit any personal aspiration will be detrimental to the country. Let's take a listen to him.
When you listen to the news, read the show, go through the show media, that's one thing that on an occasion like this, probably one need to. Yes, one-party states, countries have managed one-party states. Yes, one-party state may not be an evil after all, because Julius Nyerere of Tanzania used one-party state to stabilize his country in their early days of independence. He felt that his country has, just like Nigeria, too many tribes and tongues, 2 principal religions, Christianity and Islam. If he allowed multi-parties, some parties would toe the lines of religion, some would toe the lines of tribes, and unity would be difficult. But it was properly planned, it was not by accident. If we must, as a nation, go one party, then it must be designed, it must be planned by experts, and we know what we are going in for. But if we come through the back door by political manipulations, then we're heading to crisis. So I will advise that probably a country like Nigeria, it's better we allow the system to stay as it is. Yes, the multi-party, but if we, for some reason, we must go one party, then it should not be an accident. It should not be by political manipulation.
Well, those are the words of former President Goodluck Jonathan on his idea of what a one-party state should look like, if there is any, and if there could be any, using Julius Nyerere of Tanzania as an example. So that's been the conversation, given this avalanche of defections from other political parties to the ruling party. But he was not the only person there. The Labour Party presidential candidate also made some comment talking about he feels that the labor of our heroes is already in vain. Let's take a listen.
I'm happy that Jagawan is here, and I'm happy that Jonathan is here. But I can tell you, their sacrifice is in vain. They've sacrificed for nothing. We're in this country when people were protesting, when there was no need to protest under Jonathan. Where are those protesters? Have they died? Where are they? So why are we saying it should not be in vain? Jonathan increased fuel from 87 naira to 120, and people were protesting in this country. And when it was 900, they were not protesting. Are they dead? So why are we saying it should not be in vain? People protested when naira was 180, and when it was 1,500, they're not protesting. Are they dead? So let's not say it should not be in vain.
All right, so that's presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the last election, Peter Obi, giving his comments as well. The former head of state, Yakubu Gowon, was also there, and he spoke about national unity and all of that. But beyond all of that as well, let's come to what played out in Lagos, where we understand that there was a bit of a palpable panic today at the All Progressive Congress stakeholders meeting here in Lagos. The chairman of Algon in Lagos State, Mr. Kolade Alabi, slumped, disrupting the event at some point. And the incident happened shortly after addressing persons at the APC Secretariat on Acme Road in Ikeja. He was immediately revived and rushed to the hospital for medical attention. But after that as well, the stakeholders met to discuss ahead of the local government primary for the local government elections that will be coming up in July. Some persons that were present are the Deputy Governor of the state, Kadri Hamzat, the APC chairman in Lagos, Ojelabi, as well as Mr. Former Deputy Governor Idiat Adebule, as well as the House Speaker, Mudashiru Obasa, were amongst those. So that's when Mr. Kolade Alabi was actually rushed out when he slumped after he was revived for quick medical attention today. All right, so two things will be in focus today. One is that National Security Summit proposed by the Senate. How is it going to work out? What is the essence? How is it important? We know scores of people are dying across the country, but we've had these meetings and summits and all of that. What has come out of it? A senator will be joining me on the program. And the other part of the program, this back and forth in the Labour Party. On one hand, the Abure Committee, the Abure-led Labour Party, has suspended their only governor and some members in the National Assembly, like Ireti Kingibe and other persons, because the caretaker committee has said, look, we're not going to tolerate some of the actions of Abure. So what will happen is that we're going to investigate him for all the allegations they leveled against him. But we're going to come to that at some point on the program. But let's take our political roundup story before.
The Senate has passed 2 out of 4 major tax reform bills, marking a significant milestone in the ongoing overhaul of the nation's tax administration framework. The 2 bills, one seeking to repeal the Federal Inland Revenue Service Establishment Act, and the other to establish the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill 2025, along with the Nigeria Revenue Bill 2025, along with the Nigeria Revenue Service Bill 2025, were passed following a clause-by-clause consideration during the Committee of the Whole and their subsequent third reading on the Senate floor. The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, commended the progress, expressing optimism that the reform bills would not only enhance governance, but also revolutionize tax collection and distribution across the country. Meanwhile, the Senate has officially confirmed the defection of Senator Kawu Sumaila, representing Kano South Senatorial District, from the new Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, to the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. Senator Sumaila's defection was formally announced during plenary session today, following his recent resignation from the opposition NNPP. With his move, the number of APC senators in the 10th National Assembly has increased to 65, strengthening the party's majority in the upper chamber. The House of Representatives Special Committee, which is investigating bailout funds from the federal government, has commenced its investigative hearings. The committee met with UBEC National Agricultural Development Funds, NEMA, and NG Cares. Chairman of the committee, Emeka Chinedu, says the committee has so far uncovered millions of dollars which appear to have been mismanaged. The trial of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, resumed on Tuesday before Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court in Abuja, with the prosecution continuing its presentation of evidence in support of terrorism-related charges against Mr. Kanu. At the day's proceedings, the court admitted several exhibits, including letters, statements, and video materials said to contain broadcasts by Kanu inciting violence against the Nigerian state, and video clips announcing the creation of the Eastern Security Network and ordering a lockdown in the southeast. The prosecution's witness, who continued his testimony, presented a letter purportedly from the office of the then Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, addressed to the Department of State Services, which contained complaints against Kanu for alleged acts of terrorism, murder, and incitement of attacks against security operatives and prominent Nigerians. The federal government says several ongoing military operations and collaborations to address insecurity in the country are yielding results, as the military has neutralized over 13,000 terrorists and criminals in the last 2 years. Minister of Defense Mohammed Badaru highlights this at the Inter-Ministerial Press Conference in Abuja. Meanwhile, the Minister of Information and National Orientation is calling on media professionals to be discerning in their coverage.
Our intensified operation in the Northeast, particularly through collaboration with the Multinational Joint Task Force, have significantly weakened Boko Haram and ISWAP. From May 2023 to February 2025, our troops have neutralized 13,543 terrorists and criminals.
All right, those are your political roundup stories. So let's get straight to the very first conversation for today that has to do with our national security. We're joined on the program from our Abuja studio by former Senator representing Kaduna Central, Senator Shehu Sani joins me from Abuja. Senator, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin from piggyback on what played out on the chambers in about 24 hours. And so when I watched some of the excerpts of the conversation or plenary yesterday, there were for and against. I think Senator Jimmy Bryan was the one that sponsored that motion and co-sponsored by other members of the chamber, of other senators as well. But there were divergent positions as far as that is concerned. I listened to, I think, Senator Enyinaya Baribe as well as Senator Ningi, Enyinaya Baribe, talking about whether this is necessary or not. So they are saying that given the prevailing insecurity in the country, there's a need to convoke a national security summit and have a broader conversation on how to curb insecurity. So questions people are asking is this really necessary? We have the commander-in-chief, we have the military, we have literally everything we need. Do we need another quote-unquote talk shop in that sense to be able to know how to solve our problems in terms of security or insecurity in this sense, Senator?
Thank you for having me. Well, it is a known fact that the Nigerian state is faced with a war against banditry and terrorism. This war or this battle has been going on for over a decade and a half. And victory over terrorists and bandits is as important as the unity, the peace, the survival of the Nigerian state. And it is also a fact that the war we are fighting as a country is not just about us and the terrorists, but it's also a battle that is being fought by other nations within the sub-region. The situation we are in is the same situation the country of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso And those countries that are today under military rule, part of the reasons for the takeover has to do with the failure of the government, successive governments in those countries to combat the pervasive insecurity that is annihilating the people of that country. Well, for us, we have talked too much about insecurity. What is needed for us is to step up our actions, because our actions as a government and as a nation has not been able to exterminate the activities of bandits and terrorists in our country. We have had so many talk shops, so many summits, so many conferences about security. And what is needed now is more action. And we have seen in the last 1.5 decades how terrorists in the northeastern part of Nigeria, up to this very time, are unleashing mayhem and havoc against innocent people and burning down villages, kidnapping people and extorting hundreds of ransom. And each time you thought that they have been exterminated, few days you will see them coming out more boldly and daring. So we have had enough talk shop. What is needed now is that we should do something differently or improve on what we are doing. What is that improvement? We are in the 31st century. The use of technology is very important. And from some of the reports that have been coming up from those terrorists said that they are advancing their courses by even using sophisticated technological devices like drones. So I think these are things we need to improve upon and then continue to fight. And it is also the fact of history and reality of today that you cannot win a war against terrorism within 24 hours. This is a battle that nations of the world, more advanced nations, more developed militaries in the world have been fighting, and they are still battling. So we have to continue to do it. One thing that should be in our mind is that we should have faith in our military. We should continue to support and encourage them. And then it is also a fact that the terrorists cannot overrun the Nigerian state. But it is the battle of our time, the battle of our era. It is the cause of our nation that we must unite and achieve big victory at the end of the day. If those terrorists are not destroyed, are not exterminated, then our country will continue to bleed and to suffer. So we have to continue to do what we are doing and improve upon what we are doing. But sitting down in an air-conditioned hall and coming out with a lot of speeches from left, right, and center that adds nothing, it's not going to be of help as far as I'm concerned.
All right, Senator, apparently you do not agree. Maybe you stand on the same position with Ningi and I think Baribe on this, that is maybe just going to end up with spending money on another talk shop. It's just action at the end of the day. And I want you to speak further. I remember it was Senator Shomole, I think so, that made the statement. But I don't think they follow through, whether it was not accepted in that sense. I'm just using my words carefully here. When he was talking about probing the spendings of past military officers as well, he even alleged at some point, I know some military generals were not happy, that there are even former military generals who are complicit, even in banditry, because of the kind of the way those operations were carried out, and he had his own flags against him to that effect. But he had raised the concern over the monies we spend, our budget allocation. Military security takes like the highest chunk, even in 2025 budget. So it's time for us to look into the books and know whether these monies are expended appropriately and sufficiently. Don't you think that's also another direction? Because it looks like the more we're spending money, the more the average person is not feeling safe. So that is absolutely counterproductive, and that is not supposed to be.
Well, there are those who think that when we have a state of emergency, I mean a state of emergency in the sense that we are faced with terror attacks in our parts of the country, and the need to fund the military, to equip the military, and to give them the blank check to fight is necessary. But there are those who also, from another school of thought, who believe that the need for probity and accountability in defense expenditure is very important as far as the need to succeed is concerned. Now let's look at this. The defense budget of Nigeria is higher than the combined defense budget of almost all of the West African states. And why should other countries that are spending less seems to be safer than us? Why should that be? So the need for accounting in terms of money spent in the prosecution of this war is very important. And then secondly, I can remember there was a time when the former Chief of Army Staff, who died in a plane crash in Kaduna, Tahiru, took over office. He complained of lack of equipment, lack of ammunition, low morale among the military, and then low welfare support for our military. And that was at the very time where hundreds of billions of naira were pumped into defense and security apparatus of the state. So if we continue to pump in billions and billions for our security and defense network, and the result is not commensurate with the money that is being spent, then you know that is either the money is not going to where it should be, or some people are simply profiting from it. So you cannot say that because we are fighting a war, so the military apparatus, the security apparatus should not be held accountable. They have to be held accountable because this is public funds that have been spent. And how can, if you look at it from 2015 to 2023, the billions, almost defense carries about most likely 25-30% of Nigeria's budgetary allocation, and also is one of the defense, is one of the budget that is well funded apart from INEC. And if such amounts of money can be pumped in to our military structures, and then we are not getting the result, not just getting the result, but the military on the battlefield are complaining of lack of enough financial support, lack of equipment, lack of weapons for them to fight, then you know that there is a problem somewhere. So I am of the school of thought that the need to have accounting system in the kind of funds we pay. Let's not forget, there was a certain time, even the former president, Buhari, has to bypass protocol and processes and purchase some aircrafts, fighters. Was it Tucano, if I can recall? And then what became of them? And then of recent, some few months ago, I heard that they are also going to import more and more fighter aircraft. So it is important that we prioritize our defense spending to achieve result. We cannot continue to pump in money and then we don't get result. That is why I said defense and security funds should go. Hold on, defense and security funds should go for defense. Monies for Ministry of Defense and the military should not be used for building plazas, for building hotels, for National Association of Wives of Army Officers, wife of Air Force, wife of Navy officers. It's not for those. Those are things that should be used for those in the battlefield to be able to achieve result. But nowadays you go, almost all security apparatus of Nigeria, they have hotels, they have shopping malls, they have all these things here. I don't know how, they even have universities. So that is not what we should spend our money if we are really interested in winning this battle. Yes.
So I'm looking at the initial appropriation bill that was sent to the National Assembly, 4.9, let's just call it an approximate 5 trillion budgeted for defense alone. And you've complained about the need for us to, you raised concern about the need for us to look into the books. So whose responsibility is this? This is supposed to be the responsibility of the National Assembly. They have all kinds of committees across the defense line, defense, army, navy, and all of this. So isn't this a failure on the part of the National Assembly to do their work appropriately in oversighting to make sure that these monies are expended for what they are appropriated for, so that people can feel safe? People are kidnapped. There's a carnage on the plateau. There's carnage in Benue. And then what exactly is going? Don't you think it's time for us to call out the National Assembly to be more effective in their oversight function?
Well, it's a fact that the National Assembly has to do their own bid in terms of holding the military authorities to account or defense security. But we must appreciate that. Despite the fact that there is still violence, kidnapping and attacks in Katsina, in parts of Sokoto, Kaduna, Niger, Kebbi, and also the Boko Haram are resurging and attacking more targets and even military formations in Borno State now. Comparatively, we can see that there is a very significant improvement than when we had it before 2023. And you can remember, when last have you heard that terrorists have attacked primary school and secondary school and kidnapped students? So that should be appreciated. Kaduna-Abuja road, which is my road, my state, used to have almost on a regular basis 3 to 4 kidnapping incidences. That has also been addressed. A part of my state now is clear. Birnin-Gwari, that used to be the hope, the cesspool of terrorism and banditry, now things are a bit clearer. And the Kaduna-Abuja train, too, has had more security presence than it has ever been. But these are appreciable progress that have been made in the last few months, and kudos to National Security Advisor and the President and other defense chiefs have done a good job, CDS Musa. But for now, does not mean that because we are fighting a war, we are fighting a battle with terrorists, so we should continue to pump in money without asking what it's been used for. Monies that should be used for defense and security should specifically be used for defense and security. We need drones. We need armored personnel carrier. We need to take the battle to the terrorists and win this war. A nation of 230 million people can't be held hostage by number of terrorists that are more than 3,000 to 4,000. So this is a battle we have to win, and we have to continue to fight it. But in order for us to win, so that our funds don't end up in private pockets of military generals, we have to make sure that every penny spent in that war goes to the soldiers and goes to the equipment, goes to the purchase of whatever is necessary for us to win this battle.
Just before we leave the issue of security and talk about a few more things, there was something that the Senate President, I think, raised to the effect that was in that bill where it talked about the manner in which service officers are laid off, in that sense, whether it's the police or the military in this sense, which now makes some of them to resort to crime. Those were some of the allegations that were raised. Because of the language they now use, they're now familiar with how our military in that sense operates. So they are talking about disciplinary action and all of that. So they see that some of the former officers either are now directly involved in this crime or are becoming like insider in that sense, or are literally training some of these elements. If you were to make recommendations, what will it be to address? Because this is like somebody who knows where you walk, where you go, and how you move, telling your enemy how you move, targeting you, and bringing out every strategy you put out to safeguard either people or yourself. And this is quite dangerous.
Well, if I can recall, some few months ago, there were some military veterans that organized a peaceful procession here in Abuja, where they were demanding for payments of their pensions, gratuities, and entitlement. And that is unfortunate for a country that is in the center of a battle for its own life against terrorists and bandits. So if those who made so much sacrifices for our peace, for our security, or well-being are treated such badly, you see, it is discouraging for those in the front line. Let us not forget, whoever you see that is sleeping in his house and that is comfortable in his home or that is going to work, somebody somewhere on the front line is sacrificing his life and that of his family for him to be safe. So there are Nigerians in the military and in other security agencies that are today in the front line and confronting these terrorists. And these are not just soldiers, they are fathers, they are uncles, they are breadwinners, and they have family. Go around the country today, you will see widows and orphans of people who laid their lives for this country, laid their lives for our peace, and laid their lives so that we can live. That should be appreciated. And for a nation like ours, there is no act of gratitude than making sure that their families don't suffer and those who are on the front line are being given the highest payment than any other person, because the ultimate sacrifice is sacrificing your life, and this is what they are doing for us. So it is important that we take the welfare of the army very important. I read it last year that the federal government has raised payments for deceased and veterans, and also others who have been who are in the front line fighting. I think that's a good one, but we need to do more. We need to understand that those who are fighting are doing it for us to live, and they are doing it with serious consequences and their life. And no amount of money will you give them to say that is too much for them. So we need accounting. We need to use our money to support our military and to win this war. It's something that we don't have an option other than to make sure it happens.
Now, do you also believe, because there are also speculations to the effect that sometimes it's not as though our military do not know what to do or how to do what they want to do. It's just that politics has played in, ethnicity has played in, so they may be having contrary command as against knowing this is an enemy, but because of whatever biases, it affects their effectiveness. Is that something you've heard? Is there an element of truth in that?
Well, you see, when a nation is confronted with this danger, and then you have this kind of battle raging for so long, it's very easy for someone sitting in the comfort of his room to either look down or talk down on the military or refuse to appreciate their sacrifices. But for the fact that this battle has been going on, if not for them, terrorists could have spread all over the country. Let's not forget, at a certain time in our country, motor parks are bombed, schools are bombed, streets, people are bombed, and wherever you go was bombing. That was when the leader of one of the terror group was alive, but success was achieved, and now it's a certain part of the country. But what is going on in Borno State today is a clarion call for us to do more to address this problem of these terrorists that have become a menace and a danger to our survival. And the fact that complaints are being raised shows that there are issues that need to be addressed. And it's not just with Nigeria. Remember Algeria, 1992, after the normal election, the armed Islamic group took up arms against the state, and it lasted for almost 10 years. And it's not only Nigeria that is faced with terrorist attacks. There are other nations still fighting. And then this is the challenge of our time, for which we have to win for our own survival.
Okay. Senator, I must thank you so much. Our military, they are doing their best. We've seen our military enter other countries in the sub-region to restore peace, to restore order. So sometimes we get surprised how we can be overrun in this sense. Even our military formations being attacked on home soil is just not acceptable. But I must thank you, Senator Shehu Sani, Senator who represented Kaduna Central. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, I'll take a quick break. When we come back, we will be talking about the Labour Party. Their crisis seems to be far from over. So today, Nenadi Usman-led caretaker committee sets up a committee to investigate allegations against Julius Abure, headed by Senator Ireti Kingibe. And not too long after that, Julius Abure-led NWC suspended Ireti Kingibe, Darlington Nwokocha, and their only governor, Alex Oti. What exactly is going on with the Labour Party? We hear from the side. Right on the program. Join us again. Welcome back. Let's talk about what's going on in the Labour Party. We're being joined in the program by the special advisor to the governor of Abia State on media and publicity, Mr. Ferdinand Ekoma. And also joining us from Abuja studio is Mr. Kehinde Edun, Labour Party legal advisor. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kehinde, let me start with you. First up, on some of what played out today. So we've had two sides, the caretaker and the Abure-led Labour Party. So what is the premise for suspending the only governor you have and one of the only senators you have, while other parties like the APC is busy welcoming members, even getting as much as a governor into their fold? PDP are struggling on their own, but they've also gotten, I think, a senator that defected from the Labour Party into the PDP on the floor of the Senate yesterday. It looks like the Labour Party is almost like on a losing spree in this sense. Is that what you are seeing from the Abure end, or what exactly is the rationale behind this?
Thank you very much. The National Executive Council of the Labour Party is vested with powers to administer the party between the national conventions of the party. It has the authority to promote the interests of the party and ensure the smooth running of the party. It also has the party to disciplinary members. For some time now, we have seen a lot of misbehavior by members of the party. And no party and no responsible organization will fold its arms when it is being dragged in the mud, when the reputation of that organization is being lowered, when the image of the party is being battered in the eyes of the public. It behoves on every regulation to have disciplinary measures and invoke those disciplinary measures in order to exercise discipline and make every member of the party show a sense of responsibility. The decision taken by NEC today actually is long overdue. We have seen a lot of misbehavior by members of the party, which no responsible organization will tolerate. And we think when things like this happen, it is important that the party will show that it has the power to discipline its members. So those things are provided for in the constitution of the party. And for everybody who becomes a member of the party knows that that party is a voluntary organization. You have willingly subscribed and willingly submit yourself to the authority of that party. And by the supremacy of every political party, every member is supposed to, as much as possible, align with the programs and policy of that political party. And no member should see himself, no matter how highly placed, no matter the position you are occupying, you should recognize that the party is supreme and the party is superior to whatever position that you are holding. So it is in that light that...
My apologies.
Yes,
I want to bring in Mr. Ekoma on this one. But before I go to Mr. Ekoma, when you say the NEC, so which member, which elected official, I can see your constitution who constitute your NEC, but which elected official of your party was part of this decision? Because it looks like, correct me if I'm wrong, literally all the elected officials I'm talking here about, the senators, the reps member, the governor, seem to be in the camp of the caretaker committee. So who are those that constitute a NEC that made this decision? And when was the NEC convened?
NEC consists of over 120 members. And the quorum for a meeting of NEC, like every other meeting of the party, is 1/3. NEC met on 2nd May of this year at the national headquarters and passed a resolution. Part of that resolution is that NEC will no longer tolerate its image, the image of the party, being dragged in the mud. And NEC set up a disciplinary committee, which committee was tasked with powers to investigate allegations of misbehavior and anti-party activities by some members of the party. The committee concluded this report and submitted to NEC, upon which the NEC took a decision to suspend some members of the party.
So, just a moment. I'm going to come back to you. Okay. But my question actually was, how many elected officials are part of the NEC that made the decision? It's a straight question. I've seen your law. I know how many, you can do the tabulation, but how many elected officials in that sense? How come this is coming immediately after? Just a moment. Because
the only elected officials that are members of NEC are the governor, elected on the party, on the platform of the party, and the secretary and the deputy governor.
Okay. And they were not there apparently.
Senators and House of Rep members are not members of NEC.
Okay, that's why I wanted it to be clear. Let's go to Mr. Ekoma. Mr. Ekoma, I would like your reaction to some of the things that Mr. Kehinde has said as well.
Okay, thank you. I think the greatest act of irresponsibility is a flagrant violation of the constitution of a party. We have a party constitution that confers certain powers on the national chairman as long as the tenure of that national chairman has not expired. Once your tenure expires, you've lost the authority to preside over the affairs of the party as the national chairman. The tenure of Mr. Julius Abure expired. He pleaded for an extension, which he got, and it expired. Instead of him to respect himself and take a walk, he manipulated and imposed himself on the party. Then the leadership of the party took the right decision, which was to set up the National Caretaker Committee led by Senator Nenadi Usman to begin the process of organizing a national convention, starting from the congresses, the world, local government and state congresses, then zonal before getting to the convention. Ask the man that spoke here how and where they conducted the congresses that led to the emergence of Abure as national chairman. On what grounds, on what constitutional basis did Abure become the national chairman? So as far as we are concerned, we believe it's an insult to even describe Abure as a factional national chairman. He's not, he's an impersonator. Okay? So he is indulging in impersonation. And I can tell you authoritatively that what he just did this evening was just a preemptive strategy, okay, to avoid being suspended from the party, because the caretaker committee had set up a committee and they summoned him over allegation of corruption and impersonation. And when that was brought to his attention, he hurriedly went and announced the suspension, the alleged suspension of Governor Alexoti and other eminent members of the party.
All right.
And it's also important for me to add here at this point, and let me add that this is not about Governor Alexoti, Senator Nenadi Usman, or Senator Dalit Woket, or any other members of the party. It's about constitutionalism. It's about our law. It's about the integrity of the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court of Federal Republic of Nigeria.
All right, Mr. Ekoma, Mr. Kehinde, before you comment. So, Mr. Ekoma, I just want you to respond to this. The counter-argument that most of the time I see from, thank God Mr. Kehinde is here, they consider caretaker committee as an aberration to your constitution. They also have talked about the fact that the convention that brings the NWC comes every 4 years, but every other Congress is 3 years. So that time lag is their reliance to have organized the NEWI convention. But another part is removing Barrister Julius Abure. If you look at your constitution, Article 18, and it's one of the funniest legislation I've seen in my life, where it says that for you to remove Julius Abure as the national chairman of your party, if for instance, they say he's the national chairman of the party, it's by 2/3 majority of the convention. That convention has to be called by him for that sole purpose. So is it that there's a problem with the law governing Labour Party, so everybody is trying to walk around it to his own advantage in that sense? Mr. Ekoma, before I take it to Mr. Kehinde.
Yeah, so it's important to state that once you violate any section of the party, any of the processes established in the constitution of the party preceding your emergence or the election of any member of the party, every other thing, every other action you've taken will amount to illegality. I asked, where did they hold the world congresses? Where did they hold the local government congresses? Where did they hold the state congresses and the zonal congresses that preceded the convention that produced him? Because he knew that if the platform was provided for those congresses to be conducted, that he would never be considered as the national chairman, to be elected as the national chairman of the party. Because more than 90% of the members of the party had rejected him. They didn't want him. So it's an aberration for you to insist in being the national chairman. I just want to lay the foundation, because once you have violated those provisions of the constitution that laid the foundation for your emergence as the national chairman, every other thing, it's not even necessary.
Let's take it back to Mr. Kehinde.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ekoma, just a moment. Go on time. Mr. Kehinde, your response.
Yes. The constitution of the Labour Party is clear about membership of the National Convention. If you look at that membership, and it is also clear about who can call National Convention and who can call the neck of the party. It is also clear about the formation of committees of the party. The only body that can set up any committee at all, whether standing committee or ad hoc committee, is the National Executive Council of the party. And the constitution is also clear about who can convene National Executive Council. It is there that for a National Executive Council to be convened, the notice has to be given by the National Secretary of the party in consultation with an approval of the National Chairman. Now, they said the caretaker committee. Who set it up? The meeting in Umuahia, the September 4 meeting that they said they held in Umuahia, is an unlawful assembly. It can never be recognized as a meeting or a National Executive Committee meeting of the Labour Party. Because for a National Executive Committee meeting to hold, it has to be called by the National Secretary, who is Alhaji Umar Farouk Ibrahim, the National Secretary of the Labour Party. And that National Secretary of the Labour Party has to do it in consultation with an approval of the National Chairman. That is Article 14(4)(b) of the Labour Party Constitution. So whatever they did in Umuahia is an unlawful assembly, and they are on a frolic of their own. No caretaker committee has ever been set up by the Labour Party. So they are on a frolic of their own. They are just doing whatever they are doing. They have no authority at all to take decision for the Labour Party. It is only the neck of the party. And Abure was rightfully elected as the re-elected as national chairman of the Labour Party. At the National Convention
Just a moment, please. Because of time. Mr. Ekoma, your closing thoughts on this. It looks like, Mr. Ekoma, your closing thoughts on this. It looks like this is like, I don't know, is it a journey of no return? Because everybody's grandstanding. How is the government taking this news, and what is the next line of action? In 1 minute.
Okay. So it's not about Governor Lexoti, like I did say earlier. It's about our law. It's about our constitution. It's about the integrity of the Supreme Court of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If the Supreme Court did not find merit in the appeal brought by the caretaker committee led by distinguished Senator Nenadi Usman, the Supreme Court would have automatically declined jurisdiction and thrown it out. The Supreme Court found merit in the application and rightly heard that the tenure of Abuja had expired, and went on to admonish political parties to respect their constitution and for people to leave when their tenure expires. It's a very simple thing. The appeal was found merit and was upheld, and Abure was recognized as the national chairman of the party. So what Abure and the gang of comedians there who are busy abusing everybody, what they are doing is an affront on our constitution. It's an affront on our democracy, and it has to be viewed from that perspective. Gentlemen, they are not interested in winning any election. That is the truth. They are not interested in winning any election. What they're just advancing is their economic interest. And they feel that Alexoti's name is, can be used to advance that. That's just what they're doing. They are not interested in winning any election.
I just wanted to give you
but they've been boasting which after the 2023 election, Labour Party had taken part in other elections. Which state did they do well? Because
my apologies. This is definitely an ongoing conversation. We're far from over. But I must thank both of you gentlemen. This is the latest development in your party, and it's quite interesting how things are playing out. But I must thank you both gentlemen.
I should also make my final comments.
Just 10 seconds if you can, because I'm totally out of time. 10 seconds, no more than that.
I would say that the party is running. The party is on the upswing. The party is doing very, very well under the leadership of Barrister Julius Abure. The Supreme Court never sacked Abure. The Supreme Court only emphasized the supremacy of the party and the bindingness of the decision taken by the organs of the party. The bindingness of the decision taken by the National Convention, the neck of the party, as to who is the chairman of the party. The court can never sack any chairman of the Labour Party. What the court said was that it is not the business of the court to appoint a leader for the party, and it is not the business of the court to actually pronounce anybody as leader. It is an internal affairs of the political party.
Your points are well noted. I give you 10 seconds so you have your last thought. So at the end of the day, it looks like everybody is arguing as to who is the leadership of the party. Ferdinand Dekoma is the SA media and publicity to the governor of Abia State, Alex Otie. Mr. Kehinde Edu is the legal advisor of the Labour Party led by Julius Abure. So we're going to keep tab on your party and see how this plays out. But gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And that's it on the program for tonight. Thank you for your time and your company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Bye-bye.